I followed Irene back to her house in Hungry Horse. I was hoping to kill her, but right as I was about to enter through a window in the basement, I heard her say, "You dumbasses ready yet? We just need 5 more humans and I'll be powerful enough to open another Hellgate. I want to open the next one in Canada." I backed away, looking in through a window on the bottom floor, and I saw about 20 of the townspeople gathered inside. That's when I turned and ran. I ran as fast as I could, dialing John's number as I crossed Hungry Horse's border, back into Yellowstone. John answered his phone almost immediately. "Where are you?" he asked. I ignored his question and asked one of my own instead. "Are there any people camping in Yellowstone tonight?" I asked. "I'm not sure. Why?" he asked. "Irene only needs to take 5 more people before she can create another town, and she's got a group together to go out and find some," I said. He swore under his breath. "How big is the group?" I asked. "About 20, he said. "All right, listen, I have a plan. We need to stop her before she can take more people." "Are there any people camping close to Hungry Horse?" I questioned him. "There's a bunch camping around Old Faithful," he said. "How far away are we from them?" I asked. "I don't know exactly. It's hard to tell how far away anything is in Montana at night, but they should be within half an hour or less," he answered. "All right, listen, I have a plan. Can you get to the campground before midnight?" I asked. "Yeah, I can be there in 30 minutes, he answered. "Good, get your gear together and meet me at Glacier. Don't forget to bring your guns," I ordered. "Roger that, see you at Glacier," he said. I hung up the phone and stared at it for several seconds before dialing Oxblood's number. Myuu," I cut him off. "No time. I need you to send a team out to the campground at Glacier," I told him. "All right, I'll have a team heading out as soon as possible," he answered. I hung up the phone as I began to run faster than any human has ever run before. I thought about Irene and how close she was to opening another Hellgate. I was filled with rage, knowing that I might die trying to stop her, but I couldn't think about that now. I needed to focus on what I was doing. If Irene opened another gate, who knows what will happen? The moon was slowly rising into the sky, casting long shadows across the ground. The air was cold, the temperature dropping as I ran. I could hear the sounds of the wolves chasing their prey somewhere nearby. As I ran towards the campground near Glacier, I could smell smoke emanating from the campground. I shivered at the familiar scent and continued to run. As I got closer to Glacier, I noticed the campground was packed full of tents and RVs. I started hearing gunshots and screams. I looked around frantically for ARC operatives, but it didn't appear that they were here yet. There was a large fire burning in the middle of the campground. It looked like someone had set it. I kept running, weaving between the tents, until I found a tent that was completely shredded on one side and engulfed in flames. There was a body inside. It was completely mangled. I could barely make out any details of the person's face. There was no way of telling what race or sex the corpse was, but whoever this person was, they definitely weren't a friend of Irene's. I looked around the campground again and saw nothing but chaos. People were screaming, crying, and running away from Irene's monsters as John fought them off. Suddenly I heard the sound of a helicopter. I looked up at the night sky and saw an ARC helicopter swooping in. It hovered over the middle of the campground, their lights shining brightly. "ARC! Come on, hurry!" I yelled. I was still a few hundred feet away from the fight when I saw one of those things jump onto the roof of an RV and launch itself at the helicopter. It smashed through the cockpit window and tore the pilot out of her seat. I watched helplessly as the helicopter careened out of control, crashing into the last section of the campground that wasn't blocked by Irene's people. The helicopter exploded, sending debris everywhere and causing panic amongst the remaining campers. I took off running, masking my way towards the centre of the campground where John and his men were fighting the creatures. He kept them at bay, but they were slowly overwhelming him. That's when Irene grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the ground, her face inches from his, her long red nails glistening in the moonlight. "What do you think you're doing?" she growled. John struggled to speak. Why are you doing this? What do you want?" he wheezed. She leaned in closer and brought her lips to John's ear. "What do I want?" she whispered, then pushed him back, sending him flying into the dirt. "I want your world," she yelled. She pointed at John and the campers. "And nothing you can do will stop me." She roared with laughter. She stepped forward and placed her foot on John's neck. "Now you're going to watch as my people slaughter every single person you were trying to protect." My vision went red as I let out the loudest, most visceral roar I've ever heard. The fighting instantly stopped as everyone winced and covered their ears. Everyone but Irene, that is. Irene turned and snarled at me. "Hey, assbutt!" I sneered at her. Well, looks like I'm fighting Irene, I thought to myself. If I don't update you guys, then I probably lost the fight. Wish me luck. I really could use it. I stood in front of her, my hands balled into fists at my sides. I looked into Irene's eyes as she glared back at me with pure hatred in her own. "Do you really think you stand a chance against me? I am the strongest being you will ever have to face. You are nothing compared to what I can do," she yelled, her voice filled with venom. "Watch me," I responded. I took several steps back and leaned forwards, letting the muscles in my legs tense up. My shoulders tightened, and I could feel my back arch. I let out another primal roar as I prepared to pounce. Irene smirked, her eyes sparkling in the light of the burning fires. "Go ahead. You'll never touch me, Watcher," she taunted. "You're far too—" I didn't give her the chance to finish. I sprang forward, slamming into Irene and knocking us both to the ground. I felt her claws rip through my jacket as we fell, but I didn't care. I wanted to tear her apart. We rolled over and over, punching and clawing at each other. I tried to use my hand's strength to pin her down, but she was too quick and dexterous. I managed to hit her in the stomach, but she simply grabbed my arm and threw me across the campground. I slammed into the side of an RV, which sent it rolling. The impact knocked all the wind out of me and left me stunned for a moment. I lay there in pain, unable to move while Irene walked over to me. "You should have stayed in your cabin, you pathetic little Watcher," she screamed. I rolled onto my back and wiped the blood from my mouth as I watched her approach. "I'm going to enjoy ripping you apart," she said. "Not if I can help it," I growled. I rose to my knees and let out a defiant roar. "I'm going to end you, Irene," I said. She laughed. "Do you know how many Watchers before you thought that?" she taunted. "Maybe I'll be the first to actually do it," I said. "Won't be the last. I've been killing Watchers since before you were born, and I'll continue to kill them until my power is absolute," she said. "Not today," I promised. I didn't have to wait very long to test my words. Irene charged at me, and with one fluid motion, I grabbed her by the neck and flung her to my right. She smashed into a picnic table. The force of the impact knocked the entire thing over, spilling food and drinks everywhere. Irene let out a scream of anger and frustration as she scrambled to her feet. She picked up the picnic table and threw it at me. I used my hand's strength to leap out of the way, but the table splintered and cracked against the side of an RV. I turned to see Irene charging at me again. I sidestepped her attack and punched her in the stomach. She grunted and doubled over, falling to her knees. I kicked her in the face, sending her crashing backwards. Irene got to her feet and charged at me once more, swinging the broken remains of the picnic table around like a weapon. I ducked under it and kicked her in the chest, slamming her back into a tree. She fell to the ground, gasping for breath. Irene struggled to get to her feet. "You won't kill me. You'll never be able to kill me," she said. I could tell she really was starting to doubt that. You're wrong. We both know I can, I said. Irene was finally able to stand up. She brought the broken remains of the picnic table around like a shield. Come on then, Watcher! Let's finish this! I lunged forward, my hands outstretched. I slammed them into the wooden railing of the picnic table, shattering it and knocking Irene to the ground. I grabbed her by the throat and lifted her up off the ground. You will pay for everything you've done. Every life you took, I growled. You'll never kill us all, she spat in my face. More of you humans join us every day. She began laughing. I gripped her head and twisted hard. Her neck snapped like a twig, and the red light faded from her eyes. I turned to look at the chaos that was taking place in the campground behind me. I let out a primal, earth-shaking roar and tore into the last of Irene's group. My rage was so powerful that the ground shook and trees toppled. The sound of metal screaming in protest echoed throughout the night as I fought. It was beautiful. I lost track of time as I killed each and every one of them, leaving no survivors. They had made their choice, and now they would suffer the consequences. The carnage was horrible, and I hadn't even reached Hungry Horse yet. I tore the last of the group apart as I reached the town, and as I did, the sun finally started to rise, and the residents of Irene's town were already up and about. They were in for a surprise. I started at the diner, tearing the door off the hinges and slaughtering every last resident inside. I stormed through town, destroying anything that got in my way. I moved quickly and efficiently, tearing through a row of houses, smashing through walls, and breaking furniture. The citizens were panicked. They were running everywhere, trying to escape, only to find themselves trapped in the middle of my rampage. I heard the screams and cries of terror as I destroyed the town, and soon it was done. I had slaughtered everyone who lived there, and I was left standing in the centre of a pile of dead bodies. It was over. Irene had failed. The people of her town were gone. I grinned and called Dr. Oxblood. He would definitely enjoy hearing about this. Good job, Samuel. I heard it was quite the show. I wish I'd been there to witness it, Oxblood said. It was incredible. I don't think I'll ever forget it, I replied. Excellent work, Samuel. Your work here is done. Go home and take some time to rest. There'll be more blood to spill soon enough. These towns aren't the only weird thing about national parks, Oxblood said. Understood, I said. I'll contact you when I need you again, Oxblood added. I hung up the phone and closed my eyes. What was next? I couldn't wait to find out. I'll let you guys know when I encounter other anomalies. Thanks for all the advice.